Okay, I believe we are live now. If you can hear me, if everything's coming through okay, please give me a 5 by 5. We're going to talk about a few topics that aren't the main subject tonight to give some people some time to come in to begin with. If you can give me a 5x5 or a 5 by 5, perfect. We got 5 by 5. Awesome. Kelly is going to join us soon. She's logging in right now, I believe. But we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll wait for her to come in when she's ready. But we are going to get on track, on schedule tonight. The first three topics we're going to discuss that are not the main focus tonight are the AES factory explosion, because I had a request that we address that tonight, and some criticism on my audio analysis that was featured on Wolves in Finance. It's pretty cool. And I'm going to briefly go into why the exploding mic theory and rifle shot don't appear to work, and electrocution theory do not appear to work, in my opinion. But those are just sort of the appetizer for tonight. We will get going with the main focus for tonight after that. Okay, let's look at the AES factory explosion. What we know is very soon after John Bray came out with his theory about the exploding microphone and sort of pointed to a particular factory and a particular government work order, that factory exploded. And the initial speculation on that is that it exploded because they actually did something wrong and someone was trying to cover something up. I think an alternative explanation for that is when we talk about a workplace that involves high explosives, it's an extremely dangerous workplace. You have to have a lot of extreme focus. Everyone needs to be focused on their job and on safety and on doing everything correctly. And if you have a strong workplace stressor, that can influence people's ability to do their job safely. And so I would question whether or not there was a link between this and John Bray, but it may not have necessarily been because they're trying to cover something up. There could have been a mistake that was made, a genuine, honest mistake that was made that was sort of uh, stressed by the world thinking that they killed Charlie Kirk. Maybe the people at this factory loved Charlie Kirk and were horrified to think that they were implicated in some way. Maybe they believed that the thing that they did actually did kill Charlie Kirk, and maybe they had some guilt or something along those lines, and that influenced or impacted their ability to do their job safely. And that ultimately could have maybe led to some mistakes that were made during the course of their workday that could have caused an accident. That's an alternative explanation that does not explain it away as a coincidence, that does acknowledge that maybe there is a link there, but does not go to the full extent of it was a cover up. So that's an alternative explanation for that data point there. It was perhaps linked, but not because it was a cover up, but because, yes, they found out about John Bray, and that had an impact on their ability to focus on doing their job safely. I don't know if that's what actually happened, but that's just an alternative read on that situation. And I think that that is reinforced by Aaron Coleman, who contacted one of the managers there, who survived the accident. According to Barron, the guy was livid when he found out that he was being called by someone from the internet. And so I wonder if that could be consistent with they believe that the reason the plant exploded was because the internet got them really riled up and really upset, and then that caused some mistakes. That's what I think might have happened, perhaps. So I think there probably was some sort of causal link, but it wasn't necessarily a cover up. So that is my take on the AES factory explosion. It still could be a cover up. It certainly could be, but I don't necessarily think that it's proven or that it's necessarily evidence, because there's multiple non-coincidence explanations for that anomaly. Okay. And real briefly, I'll go over the exploding microphone as I'm waiting for Kelly and a few other people to come in. Um, yeah, I said at her leisure, so I'll go ahead and do this one real fast. So what I did not too long ago is I actually got an exploding microphone, the exact same model, I believe, and I disassembled it here. And so I learned some things about it. I learned that these devices are very light in the hand. I also learned that John Bray was saying that the explosive would have been put right here. I don't think you can see it very well, but he would have put the explosive sort of. I can't really show it very well, but the positioning that John Bray has for the explosive in this case doesn't work. It actually doesn't make any sense at all because it puts it in the middle of the battery. So that's a bit of an issue. It's also very light. And what were some other complaints that I had? I also found that we don't have line of sight. If this circuit board were to come out of this case and try to impact this side of the neck, we have a bit of a problem here. It doesn't have line of sight. It would have embedded right here. It would not have embedded over here. So it has no line of sight. And John did do a demonstration, which I appreciate. But the way he did it, he had it like he was forcing in his neck in order to try to get that line of sight. But it doesn't work because like even you can even see on his video, it's making contact with his neck starting right here, not over here. So it doesn't have line of sight. And you also have to factor in the width of the circuit board, which is pretty wide. And so it's going this way. And you also have to factor in the way he wants the shape charge to be in there is sort of like this, and it would be actually pointing towards Frank Turek. The way he has his shape charge positioned inside his model is we would wear it with the microphone facing up, which means the USB-C port would be facing that way to Charlie's right, which would be facing towards Frank Turek. So it doesn't hit Charlie in that scenario. So that's some issues with that theory. We also don't have the upwards force vector with that theory, unless you have some kind of magical physics that John Bray is not qualified to comment on because he's never handled one as far as I know. I do also have a possible lead on how to actually get some explosives for John Bray. I'll contact my guy again later to see if he has anything, but I do have a new contact who may be able to get with some people who can facilitate John Bray doing his exploding microphone demonstration, maybe, but more on that later. Okay, the electrocution theory. I don't see any evidence for it. I think that the blood on the red hands are not burned. I think it's just blood on the hands, in my opinion. I think that's the only real evidence for that theory. If you have fake death theory, then that explains the corticate posturing, and it's not sustained. And if the microphone were electrocuting him, it would have to be a very brief impulse, not a sustained shock, because the microphone falls out of his hand. If it was electrocuting him during that time, he would have held it firmly. It would have deactivated his muscles. He would have been holding it like that the entire time. I'm still waiting on Kelly to perhaps come in, and I'm waiting for some other people to come in, and then we'll get to the real meat of the live stream. So electrocution theory, I don't see evidence for it. I don't see any evidence of leads going to it, and I don't think that the stuff on the hands are actually burns, and I don't know where my anode and cathode are, and I've yet to see anyone qualified to talk about electricity give an in-depth explanation on how that would have worked. And I know that we have the gummies on the feet of the chair that were suspected to have been removed maliciously, but that doesn't work because that model chair doesn't come with those gummies. So it just doesn't. I have the chair downstairs. I'm not sitting in it right now, but I have the exact same type of chair, and it doesn't come with those. You can't find a picture of that exact model chair with those gummies on the legs. So that's an issue. Okay. So that is the electrocution theory, and then the rifle shot theory, the cavitation theory that's supposed to explain why the shirt comes up like this. We have an issue whereby the necklace is seen on the back of the neck 2 frames into the explosion. If we're alleging that the reason the pendant comes up and pulls the shirt up like this is because of cavitation on the rear of the neck, it would have to yank it up like this. The back of the neck would have to be acting on the chain to pull the pendant up, which means that the back of the necklace would leave the back of the neck before anything else. And yet we have 2 video frames, or I think 3 or 4, 0.12 or 0.16 or 0.012 seconds, I think, into the event, down to pretty much as late as you want, where the back of the necklace is still resting in its original position on the back of the neck. So the only part of the neck that can act on the necklace to push it up, the pendant up to do this, is the back of the neck, and yet the necklace is still resting on the back of the neck, very deep into the event. Gary from Paramount Tactical tried to explain that, saying that it jumped up and then had time to go back down, but gravity is too weak a force to explain that. And I did a video on that, to which he has not responded. So that's unfortunate. So that's those 3 theories. Still waiting on Kelly. That was 12 minutes ago. I think she's still working on her dog, so that's okay. So I do want to very quickly go into, geez, I don't know if I want to do that right now. I'll read some chats real fast as we wait on Kelly, and then we'll get started with the main content soon. Yes, we will get to the backpack on Mikey McCoy soon. Okay, it's not new info, but small shaped charges are used on killer drones. I wonder where they could test them for real. If it were a shaped charge, you would see recoil. And like the way John has it positioned, it's actually going this way, not this way, but it would have to be going this way. And if he wants a shaped charge going into the chest, that is impossible. That will not fit inside this case. It can only go long ways, I think. So it would either go this way and it impact on this side of the neck, or it would go this way and not really touch much of the chest, or it can go that way into Frank Turek, I guess, or it can go up sort of onto his shoulder, but it can't go straight into the chest, and it certainly can't reach this, at least not without doing extensive damage to this part of the neck. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I want to play a video of Blake responding to my audio analysis, but I don't want to scare Kelly away. But okay. Chris Silker says Charlie was shot by a classified drone that can travel faster than the human eye. It was also extremely small, I assume. Could even be the size of a bullet for all we know, in my opinion. I don't see the evidence of that. I know that we have some videos of things that might look like drones, but I don't know how to tell the difference between those and bugs, because I know there were a lot of dragonflies and other insects in the air that day. So I don't know how to tell the difference between that in a lot of the footage and a drone. We do have some video, some wider shots that do appear to show what I think probably is a drone, but it's only one, and it could easily be a bird. And I don't think that any bullet explains the shirt coming up like this, or the back of the shirt puffing out like that, when we have the back of the necklace resting on the back of the neck deep into the event. Wolves in Finance, so that's the Rick Cutler one. We can go ahead and start with number 10. What were Rick Cutler and White Shirt Guy doing at T0? I think that Rick Cutler was just getting ready to jump the fence. I think that's all he was doing. And we have an issue with the timing. I know Wolves in Finance is now supporting the theory of the palm gun, which I guess would have been in his hand sort of like this, but his hand is fisted, so it would have to be kind of like that, I guess. But there's no recoil, and the timing is out of sync too. We hear the shot go well before, well, not well before, but significantly before there's any recoil. And basically, he's doing, I think, this. I think that's what he's doing, but it's the shot, and then he goes up. So the timing is off. So you cannot associate him doing this movement with the shot because the shot happens before that movement starts. And his hand is moving a little bit, but you would have to say that as soon as his hand touches his sleeve, that's when it goes off. So that kind of deprives it of the initial reason we looked at it in the first place, because the whole action that draws to that is this action, but that action is too late. So I don't think that that is evidenced. I I don't see why we should focus on that. Okay. And yeah, there's no recoil. It'd be extremely difficult to aim it. I know that some people think that you can be trained to. Maybe you can, but I don't see recoil. The primary movement is not synchronized to the shot. It's too late. And I don't see a barrel pointing out of there, anyways. But those are the two issues with that theory. Thank you for the super chat, Tammy. I am going to start a GoFundMe to try to get some equipment. I'm trying to stay on a budget though, but I probably will come out with a GoFundMe for once I start trying to do the heavy duty reconstruction stuff. I'm still waiting on Kelly. I don't know. Yeah, I'm still waiting on Kelly. Maybe the link isn't working. Maybe I should check my email. I think the link should be working. He hasn't emailed me. Okay. I've been in front at 3 levels. It would have been a loss talking to someone else, I guess. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and play this thing from Blake real fast. He responded to my appearance on Wolves in Finance. The amount of error. And over here, this is simulating the hit. You can't. Oh, and of course she comes in right once they start doing that. Hello.
Hey.
Here we go. I was waiting for you for a little while. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. I had technical issues upon technical issues. So hopefully everything's synced up and working okay. Can you hear
You're
me?
coming in great.
Perfect.
Okay. So I did filibuster for a little while on some of the other lesser topics, so we can go ahead and start with the main meat of the episode. Does that sound good?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so I had been talking to you a little bit about what was in Mikey's backpack, but my theory on what was in his backpack. What I would like to do, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do in my investigation is start answering questions. We have a lot of questions that are being asked, and I think that we're almost 6 months into the investigation. I think it's high time that we really start coming together and start coming up with a cohesive full narrative of what was actually happening. I think we've had enough time to start doing that. And I have a theory that I think explains all of Mikey McCoy's behavior. I think that, let me start here. When I do my demonstration, everything is sort of locked into the mannequin, it's locked into my table. It's really difficult to take what I'm doing out into a random field mobile. In order to go mobile, I have to get a lot of equipment and hide it somewhere that can be removed from the scene because it's evidence. I need Okay, here's what I need. I need a laptop that can run the software that does the timings. I need a DMX box, USB to DMX. I need a DMX cord going from that box to a DMX relay, because the software controls the relay, and then the relay controls the different devices, the remote controls. And then you need a clicker that talks to QLab, the software. That's what what's his name? Brian Hartpole is clicking. That's a clicker that goes to QLab. It tells QLab to fire. So we need the laptop. The laptop needs its lid latch deactivated, and it needs a hotspot, a wireless, like not Wi-Fi, but a wireless cell phone data hotspot, so that a remote operator can remotely access it. And that remote operator would be responsible for arming the hot QLab queue that actually triggers everything with all the, it would be a group queue in QLab. But you would want to be able to arm and disarm it, because you don't want an accidental fire. So you need remote operator, the laptop in the bag, the DMX relay, which would be soldered with wires to multiple remote controls, and the clicker would go directly to the computer in order to fire that. And then we need comms to a lot of people in order to know what's going on. Okay. And then
I feel like we need a
that's,
good graphic for all of these items, just to
yeah,
like keep track. That would be helpful.
I just ordered them, and I think I have the photo up here still somewhere. I just disappeared it again. There we go. And go to my screen now. So this is just a USB adapter here for the Lightning, because I have a MacBook. It needs to be an Apple laptop. This is the power supply for the circuit board for the DMX relay. And this is a solenoid that fires the trigger, so to speak, either on the CO2 drain cleaner for the pendant gun, or for a paintball gun if we're using a paintball gun. Then this is the DMX cord, 3-pin to 5-pin, because this box is 5-pin. There's two different kinds of DMX, 3 and 5-pin. This is the DMX box that's USB to DMX. So, and then this is the DMX relay. This is how you control with the computer physical objects in everyday life, such as a clicker, or such as just a normal remote control. You would disassemble it and solder your own little wires to the button. So for example, this is a clicker that you might use. You would disassemble this and then solder some wires to it, and then solder those wires, or not solder it, but connect those wires into the little circuit board on the bottom here. I'll see if I can zoom in. So this is the DMX relay, so you would really pixelate it now. But that's how you get computerized control over everyday devices that we would in here. So that is the graphics. That's not everything that I'm going to need for the entire setup, but that's most of it. And I ordered that. I should have it by Friday. But that part is really simple and easy to do, because why is that? I think we're good. I think that's the mobile version. But anyway, do you have any questions about that, Kelly?
So the DMX wire, and I think someone else also in the chat wanted to make sure too, because who's just coming in. I'm sure that some of your folks who have heard you talk about some of these items before, yeah, I see someone said famous rapper. That's probably what my folks think about, since they haven't heard some of these more technical terms. So as they're trickling in, yeah, if you would err a little more on the side, or lean a little heavier on the side of the over explanation of the terms for those who are hearing some of these for the first time, that would be super helpful.
Sure. DMX stands for digital multiplex. It's not a very descriptive term there, but it's basically anytime you want to control lighting with a computer, such as stage lighting or concert lighting, you're going to use DMX. It's just a control protocol that allows you to log onto a computer and use the computer to control lights. That's basically what DMX is. And okay,
Okay.
why are we using DMX for Hollywood squibs? Because I have a background in technical theater, and that's what we use in technical theater to do these sorts of things. DMX doesn't just control lighting, it can also control fog effects, hazer stuff, it can control pyro stuff. You know what? No, it doesn't do pyro. You could do it with pyro, but you can do it. You can use it to control screen motors to make a screen go up and down. You can even have it control the constant power to an entire venue if you really want to. I've done that before. It's just a really good way of getting a reliable way of having a computer control things in real life without getting into like Arduino or Raspberry Pi or anything like that. It's a very simple way to program the real world.
Awesome. And how much, like, what would be, of course, we have no idea how much, Charlie's team may have spent on their setup, but like, for your setup, how much are we talking on like the spend, if you don't mind me asking?
The stuff I just bought now is like 250 bucks, not much at all. Now, what I need next is a solenoid, an electronically activated solenoid, in order to either press this. Let me go back to me. To either press this. I think that actually worked. Oh, I see what I
Mhm.
did wrong. I was supposed to do. No, I was supposed to do that view, and you would have been able to see it a lot better. I'm sorry. But you were supposed to be able to. Okay. I need a solenoid that basically does this, but what I really want is a much higher pressure one. So the pressures that we're getting out of these cartridges here are 800 psi, and a typical solenoid will not be able to act against that pressure because it's just too strong. What we have in a paintball gun, in order to get the momentary impulse, is a spring-loaded system that basically spring loads a hammer inside of the device. It is now there's basically a hammer inside of here that is now spring loaded. It has a ton of potential energy, and when I release the trigger, it hammers a a plunger on a valve inside of here in order to get a very momentary release on a very uh, high pressure cartridge like that. That's the type of valve I need, uh, or solenoid that I need that can operate at these much higher pressures. I think if I want the momentary, but I might not want the momentary. I really need to purchase the pendant, the actual pendant that's shaped correctly. This thing right here is a masonry nail that happens to be shaped in such a
Hmm.
way that I can put the heat shrink tubing over it. And when I heat the heat shrink tubing, it naturally decreases the size such that it has to stretch a lot more in order to come off, which increases the blast pressure. Now, the problem with this masonry nail is it's too flat, so the air ends up just escaping out the top and bottom. And it's probably kind of hard to see, but it's too flat. But the shape of the pendant that we see Erica hanging out the window in the car
Mhm.
in the initial image is shaped about like this. And that will increase my blast pressure. The blast pressure is basically when I use this method, when I plug this with the pendant, you're going to depress the trigger. It's going to pressurize the line. The pressure will increase up until the point where it will blast. The seal between this and the pendant will fail. And that pressure where it fails is your blast pressure, or at least what I'm calling the blast pressure. This shape of that shape allow increases the blast pressure the of this very flat tubing that you can hide and disguise underneath the shirt very easily. However, when you have this shape, it it doesn't have that same angle to it, and so the blast pressure is significantly lower when you use the heat shrink tubing. It works perfectly fine when I have the very rigid hose, but the rigid hose doesn't work because you can't disguise it under the shirt. You would see this hose. So that's why we need to go to this. Right now, though, the problem is the pendant that is shaped correctly, according to that photograph, it's shaped correctly for this to work, but it's too expensive for me right now, so I need to get some money for that. But I think that will allow me to go to the heat shrink tubing and actually get the right amount of power out of it. Do we have any
That
more
means
questions?
that's the cue for sending in those super chats, you guys, so Jordan can get the tubing that he needs, okay?
Well, I mean,
So let's remember that tonight.
I'm gonna set up a GoFundMe, I think, because I don't have any idea how YouTube calculates what I actually get paid. I have no idea. Literally no clue
I
at
too
all.
have noticed that. It's, like, all over the place, and then I feel like there are super chats that are sent that I know that are coming to me, and then, I don't know, they don't seem to show up in the register, so I'm not so sure either, but, yeah, that's
It,
probably a really good idea, and they do
yeah,
take 30%. Yeah.
yeah, or 100. Like we have no idea. I don't. But
Yep.
yeah, I need to purchase some more stuff. I need to figure out what the right solenoid is for this because it needs to be electronically controlled. But so okay, the backpack on Mikey McCoy. I think that he has a laptop in there. I think he has all this that work. There we go. I think he has all this gear in that laptop, and I'm going to build this out once, probably starting Friday. And I'm sure I'll have a video or a live stream or something on that where I will demonstrate it. And I don't, I don't know if I'll be able to do it like completely just with this gear. I'm probably going to need to order a few other odds and ends to get it to actually work, to where I can go out in a field in the middle of nowhere, have one person wearing the backpack and me wearing apparently nothing, and then have the CO2 pinning gun work. I'm Once I get this gear, I'll be really close to being able to do that, because you would have, assuming you have service in the area on your phone gives what gives basically Wi-Fi to the laptop. You would have someone back at home remotely accessing the computer, and they would be arming the QLab queue, and you would also do a test to make sure that the clicker that Brian Harpole has is actually communicating, because those clickers don't always work. And the
Right,
important thing
right.
is, if it doesn't work, no big deal. If QLab does not fire, nothing happens. It's not like only half of it is going to work. Everything that happens because of QLab. So if QLab doesn't fire, it's okay. Okay. And then, so basically what I'm finding out is this is a really complicated operation to get this to work. We need Brian Harpole with the clicker. We need Dan Flood in the background doing his hand motion up here, like this, and
Mhm.
then that, and then that. We need him. We need Mikey McCoy wearing a backpack, and he needs to get the hell out of there as soon as possible, because the only evidence on the scene after Charlie Kirk is taken away, the only evidence that any of this was faked is that backpack. That is the only gear that is associated with the stunt. All of this, nothing in that backpack is not suspicious. Everything in that backpack is suspicious. That's why it needs to be mobile. It's evidence that will lead to the conclusion that it was faked. So it needs to get out of there ASAP. That's why I think Mikey McCoy bolts, basically, after the shot
Mhm.
goes out. So then,
I would
okay.
say that the other evidence, this is a minor side note, but the other evidence that would be left behind would probably be that, the faux blood that would be on the ground, and again, why they would need to turn over that crime scene really fast, or crime scene really fast in the way that they did.
I think it was real blood. I think it was Charlie's blood.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
You know how
So
some
maybe,
people,
yeah, they had that like ready to go,
you know,
in advance.
remember the two spots on his forearm
Mhm.
in that one photo?
Mhm.
That's where they drew the blood from, I think.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, we
Yeah.
don't see those same
Interesting.
spots, but that's exactly where they draw blood when you go to donate blood. Exactly where, I
Mhm.
think. I'll have to look it up more.
I mean,
But
they take it. I've been at the hospital a lot lately, so usually they will take it from primary vein, like right, usually most people have pretty juicy veins right there on either
Okay, well,
side.
maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's
Like
a false
in that
a false alert.
fold of, of your arm.
Maybe that's a false alert, but I think it was real blood because that would you want to keep it as small as possible. You want as few people in on it as possible. If you also have to get the forensics people who are going to turn the crime scene later, that's just more complication. You want those people to have real blood that DNA matches to Charlie Kirk, I think. And we also have doctors saying that the way the blood came out looked like it was coagulated because of the heat. And
Mhm.
this goes into another part of the theory, which says that his final last words were supposed to be Jesus Christ is Lord. I think there was a false start, and that's what Blake was alerting to, I think. I don't think it had anything to do with the wine in the audio system. No device is going to be able to act on the audio system. You could be right next to a radio station, and that's not going to cause feedback. It was just poor gain structure and bad speaker setup. But I think they had a false start there. There was a technical issue. It was supposed to be his final last words were supposed to be Jesus Christ is Lord, but there was some kind of technical issue and it didn't work. So they didn't get very deep into the count. That's why we didn't see Dan Flood doing this. We didn't see all the stuff happening. It failed pretty early in the count. But that's why I think everyone is kind of talking to each other. Dan Flood goes talks to Charlie Kirk. Everyone's talking to everyone. But the reason I get to that is because Charlie Kirk would have said, when asked, what do you want your last words to be? He would have said, I want my last words to be Jesus Christ is Lord. He says Jesus Christ is Lord multiple times in the first debate. And so
Hmm.
when I heard that, listening to the entire thing from the top, I was like, wait a second. He would have wanted it to go right there. He wouldn't want it to fire on,
That's
what was
interesting.
it, counting or not counting gang violence. That's not something I would want my last words to be. I would want it to be
Right.
on Jesus Christ as Lord if I'm a devout Christian like he was. And we look at that time period, and there's all these people talking about something in the background. Something went wrong. Blake thinks it was a transmitter interfering with something, but my audio experience tells me that no transmitter is going to have that effect on a balanced XLR cable that's like 10 feet long. That's unheard of. That doesn't happen. That's not real from my audio experience. So I think there was a false start of some kind. What do you think?
Oh, that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit. So okay, and forgive me if you've shown this before, but you said he had publicly shared that before. He'd said that in an interview or something that that's what he wanted his last words to be, hypothetically.
No, he didn't say that. That's just a general thing that a Christian would probably think. A Christian, I grew up Christian. If I were asked, what do I want my last words to be as a Christian, it's going to be Jesus Christ is Lord. Just
Got
ask
it.
any Christian that. They might not say that exact phrase, but something to that order is what most Christians would. But no, he did not say that specifically.
Okay. So that does have my mind churning though on a concept, okay? And I'm gonna come back to that. I see though we do have a really big super chat that just popped through. I don't know if you wait till later on to read super chats, Jordan, but this was just about what you were talking about. And it's from Blake. West Texas is the best Texas.
Um,
So
what
you can read
what
it
were
out.
you? What were you?
Okay. So well, I
Let's
was just thinking,
continue your thought.
like, so, okay, we'll come back to that. So I was just thinking, like, I wonder if that just made, when you were describing that, that got me kind of thinking, like, could he have been, could he have been signaling that he was ready, but then, something, but then they pulled a fast one on him, and switched things up. I don't know. Anyway,
I
and
think
because I mean, he definitely looks antsy, but I still just go back to the idea that he closed his eyes and he like braced, and
right,
I'll never be able to unsee that.
right, and I agree, but I think that so think about your T minus countdown timer.
Mhm.
Like at 3 minutes, this is supposed to happen. At 2 minutes, this happens, and then at 30 seconds, this happens, and then at T minus 2 seconds, Dan Flood starts doing his motion. I think they were probably at T minus 3 minutes when something happened and they had to abort very early
Mhm.
in the countdown. So that's why you're not seeing Charlie brace. That's why you're not seeing Dan Flood doing his thing. That's why you're not seeing
Right.
all these indicators that we see later on
So
because it
true.
was too
So
early in the
true.
count.
Yeah, so true. Good point. So I guess he didn't get to have his desired last words, but you know,
And have
he
you
did
ever
he did
seen
brace.
Dan Flood go up to Charlie Kirk and talk to him in the middle of an event? I haven't, and I've watched a lot of the footage.
Um, I think I've seen Charlie look over to him and
Mhm.
like ask him a very brief question, but I don't think I've seen Dan do more than like lean toward him, not full
Mhm.
on come up to his ear, you know?
Yeah, and what I think he was saying was, "Had an issue, we have to go to the next option." That's
Mhm.
what I think was going on through that whole time.
And we also had Terrell come up to him as well.
Carol, yes, we did, yeah. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on there that Blake did accurately alert to. I just don't agree with his interpretation of that. And that goes back into the coagulated blood and also
Yeah.
the back of the shirt puffing out without any exit wound. Because my theory is that the back of the shirt was because there was supposed to be an exit wound and it failed.
Mhm.
And I wonder if the delay, what I've heard from medical people say is that if real blood is left out too long, especially in that summer heat, it will coagulate, it will thicken
Mhm.
and we see the blood coming out of this wound very thick. And doctors have said, I think, that they say they're doctors. I haven't personally confirmed that they're doctors, but doctors have said that the blood coming out of there could have only looked that way if he was dead for hours because it was
That
coagulated.
it did not match what would be expected from, fresh blood, immediate shot in that area. Yeah, the first blood that you see coming out.
Even if it's venous blood or brain
Yeah,
blood or whatever.
exactly. Between, the color and the texture.
And so I
Mhm,
think it was coagulating and it was too late. They had too much
mhm.
time out there. It was sitting under the sun too long. It was supposed to go 5 minutes sooner. And I think that extra 5 minutes under that sun could have been the reason why it failed back here, too. It could have maybe clogged. I don't know exactly how that squib system works yet. I need to buy one. I need to figure out exactly how that works and what failure modes that it has in order to see, okay, if the blood thickened, if it coagulated, would that maybe cause that to have the air come out and push it out
Mhm,
and not have blood? But that's what I'm looking into is possibly the excess coagulation could have caused that one to fail, but the front one to not fail because it's a completely different mechanism. This one is a
oh,
prosthetic. Yeah,
hmm,
a completely different mechanism. If you want to put a squib under the shirt, that's a conventional squib. That's actually a squib. It's significantly easier to do.
yeah. And you can see a
But the
lot
one,
of those videos on YouTube, right? I mean, yeah,
yeah,
it's like easy because you can pre-cut the hole in the shirt and, boom, yeah.
but the one on the back is like that, so it would have been significantly easier, but it may have also been more susceptible to failing due to coagulation. So, I don't know if any of
Interesting.
that is actually true, but, that's the way I'm building out the theory right now.
Got it.
Okay. Um,
Okay, let's see. I know
yeah, let's
there.
respond to Blake real fast. If you're still there, Blake, thank you for that super chat, I really appreciate it. He says, "Do I understand this correctly? Jordan's theory is that something exploded under his shirt, a squib, that computers were involved to execute the detonation. It's not detonation. It was an overpressure event. And that Harpole had a clicker in his pocket that had a direct roll to the overpressure event of said squib. It's not an explosion. It is an overpressure event. I will demonstrate that overpressure event here if this has charge, which it does. You have the computer controlling so the computer is remotely operated. Let me get a better view so that you're not. There we go. That hides your entire screen. Okay. What I'm saying is it's just an overpressure event. It's not a detonation or a deflagration or anything like that. It's just that. That's all it is. It's just air pressure from a CO2 canister. What I'm saying is you have a clicker. This is the chain of events. You have a clicker or some kind of beefier version that actually works, because we know that normal presenter style clickers don't always work. So Brian Harple has some kind of clicker that sends computer software on a laptop a go signal, a go command that tells that computer to fire off a list of cues with very precise timings, very precise delays. That computer is then connected to a DMX box. That DMX box is then talking to a DMX relay. And that DMX relay allows the computer to talk to clickers like this or any kind of remote control that can then talk to a squib device, one of these, to a solenoid somewhere, a remote trigger on a gun, any of that stuff. All of that is controlled by the computer. So the laptop, the bag in the laptop is that laptop. It is remotely accessed by someone, could be in China for all I care, because you have a cell phone with cell data that is tethered to that device, or the laptop is tethered to the cell phone, so it has data, so it has internet connection for the remote access. That remote person activates the queue, or they arm the queue so that it's hot, so that the system is hot and ready to fire at the right time. But they have to have communication with, and we'll get to the next point now, they have to have communication with the scene, preferably through FaceTime, so that they can see, when should I activate? When should I arm the system so that Brian Harple can click and activate QLab, which then activates the DMX relays at the precise timings, which then activates the squibs through little clickers like this, which are soldered to the DMX relay. I just purchased almost all of that gear just like an hour ago. I'll be receiving it by Friday, I think, or maybe Thursday of this week. So I'll be able to demonstrate that. Most of it. I didn't get a clicker. I'll probably have to get a clicker. And I can't yet. I should be able to demonstrate the solenoid as well. So I should be able to demonstrate. Go ahead.
So he said without a long-winded explanation, I'm going to try to get this right. What about, hold on, a bunch of chats just came through. Overpressurization.
He can come on if he'd like. If he would like to come on, he can come on.
Where do you think, Blake? Where you at? But basically, is it over? George's theory is that there was an overpressurization.
Yeah.
Under the shirt.
Yeah, overpressurization just means that you have a lot of air pressure that's released very quickly, and that's how we get. Where did my pendant go? I think it has disappeared. But that's how you get the shirt coming up like this, with that overpressure event. That's why it looks like it's billowing out. So it's not a detonation with a T is where you have a pressure wave, I don't know the correct technical term for it, but it's an explosion with a pressure wave. It's an explosion with a big E, right? This is not that. Nothing is catching fire. There's no supersonic pressure wave, anything like that. It's not very loud. I mean, it's kind of loud, but it's just basically like popping a balloon. That's basically what it is. It's just popping a balloon. I don't know where my pendant went, but I think most people get the idea. Is he saying anything else that I'm seeing a lot of short ones, but substitute explosion for overpressurization.
Oh, okay, hold
It's
on.
not
He's
an explosion.
FaceTiming. Well,
Just screen share it.
okay.
I'm not going on the link. Just screen share our FaceTime.
Okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to screen share okay. Okay, is this what you want me to do? You want me to hold up the phone? This is really
No, you answered it on your phone.
Yeah.
I thought you answered it on your Mac.
No, sorry. Or maybe I can switch it. Let me see. I don't
I think audio
hold
should
on.
be okay.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Sorry, guys.
Hey, Blake. Thanks for coming on.
Join. And then let's see here. Let me do a screen share. This is when I definitely feel my age, you guys.
I wouldn't
have a
have the
birthday on
first clue how to
Friday.
do that myself.
Everybody tell me happy early birthday.
Oh, is it your birthday?
Okay, here we go. Okay, you're very dark, Blake, but there you are.
Well, I'm out walking, Jill.
Okay, I know. Can you hear him?
Thanks for coming on, Blake. What would you like to say? Can you put your mouth closer to the microphone? I think it's gating you off. Or maybe you're not talking yet.
Right here?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, I can hear Jordan too.
Okay.
What's going on, Blake?
Not much, man. All right, so okay, this is a little weird. I got a little bad feed echo, but I can focus. So basically, I will rephrase the question on the super chat. So the question would be, we'll substitute everything out that had said detonation with overpressurization, and then yes or no on the pretense of the question.
Let me scroll back up to that. Do I understand? Is that something overpressure event under the shirt? Yes. The computers were involved to execute that event? Yes. And that Harpole had a clicker in his pocket that had a direct role to the overpressure event? Yes. I would agree.
Money. Thanks, Jordan. We'll see y'all.
All right. Have a nice day. Thanks for coming on. Okay. Not sure how to interpret that, but that's okay.
I missed that because my dogs, well, they were barking. So yeah, I guess he got whatever he needed.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah, that's basically it.
Fun. Okay.
Okay. Did you have any more questions about the backpack? I know that you had, or do you need to go with your dog?
Let me grab my dog real fast.
Okay.
But if you want to go ahead and set up, if were you going to pull something up?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and filibuster on the next point, and I'll wait for you to come back. Okay.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. So the next point on here is, why did Mikey leave so fast? That's because he has so much evidence on that backpack. We have the computer, like nothing in that backpack is innocent. All that stuff is only there to make this thing happen, make the fake death theory happen. And so, let me bring her back up. You need to get that stuff out of the way as soon as possible, because if Mikey McQuaid gets stopped by the police, if he gets caught inside of a police border, a police temporary zone, or if he gets stopped and questioned, then they're going to want to know what's in the backpack. And if they look in that backpack, the whole thing is blown. So nobody can look at that backpack. No one can touch the backpack. No one can open it and look inside of it, because it's going to be suspicious. So he must get out of there as soon as possible. And he's the only person who needs to do that. And so that's why we see him immediately pull his phone up to his hand, up to his face. I don't think he was talking to anyone. I think that was just sort of an excuse. Like,
Yeah.
I'm busy at talking on the phone. I'm busy. That's why I need to leave. And less of a, I'm actually talking to someone, in my opinion. So I think he needs to get out of there as soon as possible. He's the only person who needs to do that because he's the only one with the evidence. And the only other evidence on the scene is not even the blood, because I think that was real blood. It's literally just the stuff on Charlie Kirk's person, and that's why they're picking some things up and probably grabbing some stuff off his body when they are working on him under the tent there. Once Charlie Kirk is gone, once Mikey McCoy is gone, there is no more evidence anywhere on the scene. And another piece of this puzzle is pretty interesting. If it is true that the back of the shirt needs to puff out because they're trying to simulate an exit wound, Algeist brought up a really good point. If it came out the back of the neck, if that's what they were trying to go for, Algeist says that's BS because they would have to have a hole in the canopy in the back, in the backdrop, and you would also have to have a bullet recovered somewhere on the cement behind. Okay, so we should be able to find. We should, when we're setting up this event, we should be able to realize that, hey, we need a bullet to come out. So that means we need to shoot the canopy in advance. And people have done this before, and they've found out that the hole that it makes is very small. So when viewed at a distance, you might not see it. You probably wouldn't. And apparently it can self-heal as well. Because the heat from the bullet sort of melts it temporarily, and then it sort of melts back. I would need to demonstrate that myself to know for sure, but I think that there could be a hole already in that backdrop that we just don't see that would have been for that exit wound, for that bullet escaping. And then the bullet that you would find on the ground behind the tent on the cement, you can just throw that on the ground probably. You probably don't even need to chip out any of the concrete. You just fire it into water, put some blood on it from the squib setup, and you just throw that on the ground whenever. So that's just another aspect of it that I don't think could falsify the theory, because I don't think we can say definitively whether or not there was a hole in that canopy, in that backdrop. But that's another interesting point. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Now, I mean, if that was the case, though, like, why still proceed with the quick revamping, reconstruction of that area? You know,
So the
because that
exploding
did call a
microphone.
whole lot of attention. You know, it
Yeah.
was so odd. It called a whole lot of attention to it.
Yeah. So are you asking that because the initial read on it would be from fake death? The reason they had to do that was because it was fake blood, and you can't reliably clean up all the fake blood. So that's why you would do it. Is that where you're coming from?
Well, I mean, actually, they could have. They could have just some bleach and water
Yeah.
and, you know, whatever. I mean, that's basically what they would use. I mean, maybe something a little bit more fancy, but I mean, there's you know, blood that spills on, you know, I don't know, like on football fields and soccer, so on sports fields all the time, but they are not like tearing up sports fields, you know, after every game.
Yeah.
So,
Exploding microphone theory probably does have a better interpretation of that specific thing. I think I would really need to have much more details on exactly what explosive was used and whether or not it's actually dangerous. But I think in theory they have a slightly better read on it. Personally, I think they probably just wanted to memorialize it, and it wasn't a real crime scene to begin with, and that's why it was not treated with the investigative rigor that you would expect.
mhm.
So
Okay.
that's what I think it was.
Um, I think Blake is asking if he can come back on. I think the reason that he hopped off was because he's in the chat. It was because it was echoing so bad, and that's probably my fault because I didn't have myself on mute. But If you, I mean,
Yeah,
if you want to,
he says, text me. I'm not privy to his. Kelly, could you do
I
that?
can
I'm
send him a
not
link.
privy
Yeah,
to
of course,
his.
absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
And then we can have him on. But this is great. Like, I want to talk to disagreeers more than I want to talk to agreeers, or in general. But what we're doing right now is great as well. Even if we're both on fake death theory side, it's still great to share
We're
ideas
still
and bounce
working
ideas
out.
off.
Yeah, and we're still like working out different, different aspects.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, and I believe Kelly's more or less on that same boat. This person says, "Are they still saying he is alive?" I am, but I'm not going to
Yeah,
speak for Kelly.
and my predominant theory is and has been that Charlie knew one way or another that he was not walking out of UVU that day, and so that means whether it was pretending to be dead or actually dead, he knew that.
I don't think he would walk in there if he thought he was going to get killed, though.
But I go back to saying that, like, you have to let go of your preconceived notions about Charlie.
Sure.
That's
And we're
how
going to
that's
go
how
into
I
that later. We'll go into
Yeah.
that later because I have some information that I think is pretty interesting there. But is Blake coming on?
I just sent him the link. Yes.
Okay. So we have a few other topics. Once we get through that, I have my own read on George Zinn, a new one. I also have some information on why Charlie Kirk was wearing sweatpants that day. I have a new update on how the chain comes from up here and flies past his ear like that. I actually have a video to share on that, I think. That's
Man, you got
all
all
Jason
kinds of
work.
stuff.
I also have a new motive theory on why Charlie Kirk would give up control of TPUSA, and I think Frank Turek was probably FaceTiming the person remotely operating the laptop. And I have some new information on the bulge under Charlie Kirk's shirt. I also have. We already talked about the Mormon guy, so we're already done with that. And then we already talked about Rick Cutler. Also, the white shirt guy, I'll mention this briefly. The white shirt guy, house left, Charlie Kirk's right. He's doing this motion kind of right when the shot goes out. I think he was in on it, and he was just doing make believe pretend gun because he thought it would be cool. That's what I think was going on now. Because if I were to go to a Hollywood set and I knew they were doing these blood effects, and like if I were kind of impulsive, I might do that just for pretend fun. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, or that he was in on it in the sense that his job was to make a distracting motion. You know, he was just supposed to do something distracting.
Yeah, there's the smoke and mirrors.
That distracts a group of people and, has a group of people like focused on what is this, right? Then that's a period of time that they are focused on looking into him and looking for a video of him and trying to figure out what the heck is that motion, right? That they're not looking at, perhaps the right thing.
Yeah, that was my initial read on it too. We're going to go ahead and add Blake to the stage now. We have a disagreeer. Perfect. So what do you think about my laptop theory, Blake?
Are we talking about the laptop theory being tonight's theory, what you've outlaid with Mikey and the backpack?
Yes.
So before I jump into it, let me just ask a couple of lead-up questions.
Sure.
Who was going to search Mikey? Did you see anybody being searched?
No.
So how does that mesh or square with his rapid departure?
I don't have behind the scenes video of anyone being processed out of that crime scene.
Right. But you're alleging that his rapid exit within a fraction of a second to get on a phone call that was already live, you're saying that he was afraid that LE was going to search his backpack, so that's what made him leave so quickly?
Yeah. You wanted
I'm having
to
a hard
egress
time
that evidence
reconcile that.
ASAP. What's
I'm
that?
having a hard time. I'm having a hard time reconciling that just off the sheer fact that there was absolutely no authority or anywhere present until at least 17 minutes after the Big Bang. So I don't understand how.
But he
Was he
didn't
afraid?
necessarily know that that was, that no one plans get thwarted all the time. They're like,
So let me push back just a little bit here, Kel. Okay. So you mean to tell me that Mikey was operating under the pretense that he was going to be searched within a split second of the Big Bang?
I'll put it to you this way. I'm coming at it from the perspective of the crime scene artist or the quote unquote crime scene artist. When I'm designing this backpack, putting all of these electronics into the backpack, and I'm giving it to Mikey, and I'm going to tell him this stuff is extremely sensitive. You cannot let anyone see you with this backpack looking at the contents of this backpack. This backpack is extremely sensitive. You need to get that the hell out of there ASAP once its job is done. There can be no one can have any opportunity. You need an abundance of caution with that backpack.
Do you know that he came back?
And I will add too, he did come back later, but it was much later. And
How much is much later?
I don't know. Andrew doesn't remember exactly what time Mikey.
15. 1-5.
Okay,
15.
well, that's enough time to go.
He still has backpack on.
Okay, well, maybe he took stuff out. I don't know.
What is that in footage?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it the same backpack?
It appears to
And
be.
where is he seen?
Underneath
Where is he seen?
Hall of Flags. The tunnel.
Is that on archive.org?
I don't know if it's on archive.org.
Can you tell if the backpack is as full or as dense as it appears at the time of the?
Well, I wouldn't go there. I think
you
if
can
my
have
theory
like a
is true,
structure to it, but yeah, I don't know.
well, what I'll tell you, Blake, is
just,
if you can show me that footage, I will retract that theory. I still think that there would be some kind of mobile backpack somewhere, but if you can show me that footage with him still with that backpack going back to the location, then I'll retract that theory, okay?
And Jordan, just so I'm perfectly clear, you're saying that there's just something super special. I didn't see the picture. Perhaps I don't want to rehash something that you've already shared with your audience, but this is stuff that absolutely needs to remain concealed. Or
Yes.
what's the difference in a laptop being out on the table versus why does it have to be concealed in a backpack? That's I don't understand that.
It's not just a laptop. It's a laptop with a phone with data. It's remotely controlled. It has circuits it has exposed circuitry in it. It has a DMX box. It has a DMX relay. It has soldered wires inside of it. It would look like a bomb if you didn't know what it was. And I'm going to demonstrate that probably this weekend once I get the gear.
And do you think that Mikey was in comms with everyone? Was he wearing one of the microphones?
No. He does. All he needs to do is stand close to the other gear because it's short range wireless gear.
Would you agree that this theory of the backpack and it containing super sensitive material could easily also be applied to something exploding underneath the shirt as well?
Narratively, no, because if it were exploding Mike, you would just shoot him. You wouldn't need any of that. You would just need a cell phone, and you just need a cell phone. That's it.
Why don't you need a cell phone for just this? What makes your stuff so super complicated and a shape charge not complicated?
Because a shape charge just has to send signal, just needs to send electricity over one resistor. That's it. That's all it needs to do. But with this, you have 4 different devices going off on Charlie Kirk's body. And you have to coordinate that with people on scene there. Because you have 4 different devices, electronic devices going off on Charlie Kirk's person. That's why.
Okay, and you talked about all this earlier. Like I can find it.
Yes, I went over the design of the backpack to some degree of detail, but I'm going to be doing it better once I actually have the gear. I'll go back into pointing my camera downwards so that you can actually see what I'm doing as I build it out. But I would recommend you wait until that because you can actually see it then. And once I get some more gear, I'll be able to actually demonstrate it to where I can go out into a field with a Mikey McCoy wearing the backpack and with a Brian Hartwell with the clicker. And I will be able to walk around, have photos taken of me, and have Brian Hartwell click the little clicker and have the CO2 pendant gun go off. Anywhere out in the field, doesn't matter, but I would need a remote operator arming the system through remote desktop connection. But I'll be able to demonstrate that very soon.
Where are you going to do it? Yeah, it's funny,
have a
Kelly, because
buddy.
I'm flying. It's funny, Kelly, because I'm flying out. You're gonna throw hats to me.
We do have some stuff in the works. I'm pretty excited about. I can't really talk about it, but the stuff that I know you've been asking me to do, where I get out of my room here and go out into a field with a tent, with some actors, with some other people, we do have some development on that front that I'm very excited about. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome.
Will you commit right now to letting me participate?
I don't have details on it. I can't commit to it, but I would certainly intend to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hang on. The clicker. Let's go to it. Why does the clicker interfere with the audio so significantly?
It
Really?
doesn't. It's just gain structure. And
You
a wireless
will never-
transmitter. Hold on. A wireless transmitter is never going to interfere with that ever. Not when you have a 10-foot balanced XLR run with traditional shielded cable. You will never cause interference in that system. The whine you're hearing is due to the fact that they do not have speaker arrays. Their PAs are significantly underpowered, which means that you're going to have to pump up your gain in order to get anything coming out of those speakers, which causes the whine. I don't see a correlation between that and Brian Hartwell. Even if there was, I would say it's just coincidence. It's just bad gain structure.
So this is where people really lose faith in the argument, is because there is absolutely zero doubt when Philip Goldsberry looks up to Dan Flood in a covert style frantic moment, puts his index finger in his ear, signaling we have audio issues, to which Dan Flood immediately gets on the microphone, talks to Brian, and calls Brian over, to which Brian disengages the clicker. You will never be able to convince anybody that has a brain that that has absolutely nothing to do with the audio. And the fact that someone so intelligent can't recognize that makes us all question your sincerity.
I
don't know about
I
that.
have live audio experience. I know what can and cannot cause that interference, and nothing that fits in your pocket will be high powered enough to cause that much interference on a balanced common mode rejection system on an XLR shielded XLR run that's not even 10 feet long. There's no technical explanation that gets you from a clicker or whatever in Brian Hartwell's pocket to audio interference that's going to cause them to turn back. My interpretation of that interaction is that Charlie Kirk's last words were supposed to be Jesus Christ is Lord. There was an issue pretty early into the original count, and they were discussing that technical problem that prevented them from going at their first option. And their second option was with Hunter Kozak. I think you were correct in alerting to that event, all of that communication going on, but I do not agree with your interpretation of those events.
Why does he mess with the clicker then?
Because they're probably testing out the clicker to make sure that it works with the system unarmed.
So, Jordan, the only reason I chimed in tonight is because you said something that grabbed my attention, and it was a unity statement earlier. Okay? And I'm just going to leave things right here that you're absolutely correct. And at the end of the day, the reason I asked just a simple yes or no question is because at the end of the day, whether my theory is correct and John's, and I'm not necessarily all in on it is the microphone. I'm saying it was something under his shirt because there is other things that are out or that are in existence, not out, that illustrate differently with it originating under the shirt. So whether that theory is correct or y'all's theory is correct, at the end of the day, how many degrees of separation are we talking about here? We're on the same freaking team. It's the same shit. Whether it's a squib or an explosive or a shaped charge or whatever, something detonating, we are in agreement with a shitload.
Mm-hmm.
That, number one, Brian Harpole had something on his body that had a direct link to the reaction underneath Charlie's shirt. And I mean, I don't know where you think the whole shot thing came from and all that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's about the event that happened underneath the shirt. And I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Thank you for that. I agree with that. And I agree that it's under the shirt as well. I was initially on board with John's theory, but I initially thought that he had some kind of device over here. I don't know if you can see the screen or not, but under the D for freedom. So when I look at what's happening to Charlie, it looks like this part of the shirt is coming up like this, making an arc of the freedom text, sort of like that, and it's going up to his ear. So that tells me the device is under his left chest, not his right lapel. And that's why I'm going with the CO2 pendant gun. If we have the exploding microphone, it should be pulling back like this, or it should be going up like this for that shirt deformation. But what we instead see is the pendant rising up like this. And so that's why I'm going with the pendant gun.
And just so we're clear, I didn't hear you say anything about someone shooting a rifle on a roof. Correct?
I do believe there's a rifle shot on the roof, and I think it went into the van. I did see your commentary on my audio analysis on Wolves and Finance. I believe that was the trajectory.
Do you believe, for one instance, let's take this Charlie Kirk out of the equation. There's another homicide that occurs at UVU right there in the courtyard. How reliable do you believe, and let's say they've got a suspect and they're trying to determine, they're trying to prove his guilt for firing the weapon, okay? Do you believe for one instance that testimony being argued in court would hold up even a fraction of a percent, given the layout of the buildings and all of the craziness that goes with acoustics and whatnot? Do you believe
That would be up to, I forget which FRE it is, but that would typically be up to a judge to decide which evidence is considered admissible. The way I did see your commentary on that about the buildings and the echoes making it difficult, and Grok saying this or that. I published
on diligence? Are you
article.
talking about diligence space when we got into that long? Is that what you're talking about?
There's a video on your channel where you're responding to Wolves in Finance. I don't think I saw anything about diligent.
Okay, this was back. This was around the holidays.
This video here where you have your cowboy hat on.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Was just freestyling.
Yeah. Okay.
This.
Let me go
we
ahead
went
and
into.
respond.
Okay.
All right. The audio analysis I've done, I posted an X article going into great detail on, okay, this is a preliminary report on what I did. I'm not making a firm conclusion yet. I'm saying that the data appears to be most favorable towards this specific shot angle, but I listed out like 8 to 10 different caveats to that analysis that say, okay, this is a problem that can skew results. This is a problem that can skew my results. This needs to be understood better. That needs to be understood better. The result is limited in this sense. It's limited in that sense. There's like 8 to 10 different limitations to it that I openly acknowledge and that I'm intentionally and actively mitigating. As for the echoes, I do have some problems that are caused by echoes, but I can mitigate those. And the biggest advantage I have is I'm only looking at the initial transient. I'm only looking at the initial arrival time of the crack and the thump. I'm not listening to anything behind that, only the initial. Have I had cases where I end up accidentally grabbing an echo instead of the initial? Yes. And we have ways of identifying those mistakes and correcting them. So these are definitely valid concerns that you have, but I have those concerns as well, and I'm able to mitigate those factors.
What does that mean specifically? You're able to mitigate. Are you using mitigate and manipulate synonymously?
No, what it means is that there are limitations to the method, such as echoes, and we need to be aware of those. And we need to know that, yes, it's possible to accidentally grab an echo instead of this. We need to be very extra careful about that. And we also need to do a lot of test cases where we go out into a field and fire a rifle from a known location into a known orientation, and we set out microphones and we see whether or not the software actually works. That's science. That's court admissible. That's how we tell whether or not the tool actually works. And as we do more tests, especially in environments with echoes, we can get even more sophisticated in our analysis of these caveats of how accurately can we actually use this method.
So you're claiming that you would be able to go out into a field and set up microphones, and I'm operating like this is something that you would testify to as an expert for the prosecution. Okay,
I already have done that.
Great. So
it's already been done.
Cool. So you're telling me that you would go out into an open field and that the defense, and let's pretend that this is a murder trial for someone right there at UVU in the courtyard. You're telling me that the defense would not object to the fact that you are not present at the courtyard with all the buildings, that this absolutely is snake oil.
Sorry, I don't think I quite caught the logic at the end there. I don't have personal experience with FRE, with judges, with being an expert. I don't have credentials that would particularly make me an expert in audio analysis. I'm doing the best I can.
Forget about the trial. Forget about that variable. I'm just asking you, do you think that your field is the same as the courtyard with all the buildings?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I haven't yet reproduced that amount of echo, no.
Okay. Let's go to the timing. You're telling me that someone up on the roof perfectly timed that shot with someone detonating the squib?
No, not at all.
What are
It's
you
all
saying then?
it's electronically controlled. Everything is. There's a solenoid. Yeah.
Up on the roof?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
With
new. Have you
another
talked about
backpack.
this yet? With another backpack, which is what he's
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. I haven't covered it specifically, but you would just have another backpack with another.
I'm telling you what,
That's not difficult
Jordan,
to do.
if we're ever going to make a Jason Bourne movie, I'm signing your ass up as a writer because you've got it.
The timing. I understand a lot of people get hung up on the timing, but coming from
It's
a
everything.
show,
It's everything. The timing
coming
is
from a
everything, bro.
yeah, coming from a show control background myself in technical theater, that the timing is actually the easiest part. Because you literally just type it into
I
a
have a
computer.
Well,
feeling
if
if we did
it's
a poll,
automated, right? I mean, if it's
It's all
automated,
Like you just type in the numbers in a computer and you do the math and figure out when these things should happen. And you have a little bit of variability with the blast event on some of the pendant guns over there, but it's all in a computer. And there was a little bit of error, I think. I'm not. That could have been due to just not the best math in some areas, but you literally just type it into a computer, and I'll be demonstrating this probably over the weekend.
so
Okay.
I memean,
who
I think
controlled
at
the
the end of
script?
the day, oh.
Let's let Kelly go because she's been quiet.
I think at the end of the day, like we are really not all that far off. I think both
We're
of you
not.
guys are saying that we're not all that far off from each other. And so we're just kind of, I know we are all so passionate and we're coming up on 6 months here and we are just wanting to figure all of this stuff out desperately and are working with such little evidence that they have actually allowed us access to, and we're all doing this remotely. It's quite remarkable. But we just have to like try our best to keep ourselves sane and keep pushing through. And I just appreciate that, we're able to keep like open lines of communication on this.
It's paramount.
Thank you.
And that's
Hold on.
why I wanted to extend the olive branch here because look, we are on the same team. It might not seem that way, but we're on the same team.
All right. Thank you for coming on, Blake. I do want to get to some other stuff and go with the original format there. I appreciate you, sir, for coming on. Thank you for your time.
Blake,
Sorry.
it's too soon. Too soon. You did not
I was just throwing up the okay. It's just Jordan, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate
You
it.
saw it too many times in the Wolves and Finance episode. Oh, God.
Like,
All right. Thanks for coming on,
subconscious.
Blake. Appreciate it.
See you, man.
All right. We're going to go back to the original format. That's great. That's what we need to do more of, is getting disagreeers talking so that we can get these things figured out better and get to the true truth more efficiently. Okay. Let's talk about George Zinn. I know that was another topic that Blake had, but he was not originally invited onto this episode. Maybe we can set something up later. So as I was watching your guys's live stream a little while ago on George Zinn, the first thing I really want to say is, where did you get the two hats? Were they not selling hats at the Purple Tent?
I don't know. I had not seen that. All that I saw at the tent was like passing out pamphlets and like information, signing people up to be part of the chapter and things like that. I don't know. Did you see those hats being sold?
I don't have really any photos or video of the tent, so that I'm pretty sure they probably would have been, though. So that's where I think he got the second hat from. For people not aware of that, what we're talking about is George Zinn, the guy who says shoot me, shoot me. He had two hats, and there was some speculation on where he got the second hat from. and I think he got it from the purple tint. In my
He
opinion, I
just
think
doesn't
that's
really
the best
strike me as a guy who's like gonna splurge on 2 hats. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could
And
be wrong.
then let me try to find my thing here. But you know what? That
Especially
might not
when
have
he's
been both.
about to if he knows that he's about to, uh, cause a distraction, right? Like, I don't know. I'd wanna keep, like, at least one of my hands open,
My
not both
main
my hands.
read after, and I think it was a very valuable live stream because I was not aware of exactly what his behavior was
Mhm.
after and sort of before the event, before the shooting. What I was really keyed into was he's acting like he has some kind of mental health issue. Like he goes up, he's wandering around aimlessly. He
Mhm.
is making a bizarre claim to responsibility for it. His pants fall down for no reason. Like I guess he doesn't have good self care, and he
Right.
has the little plastic thing with that you would normally keep a passport in. That tells me that it's emergency medical information. Like if I'm incapacitated, I need help. The help needs to understand what's going. That's a medical card, I think. That, what you think that's a medical card?
I think that it very well could be. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of, like, what you'd wear around your neck, you going to I mean, for the younger people, right, like, going to Disney or something, you've got your, like, important stuff there, or you're traveling out of the country or whatever, but, yes, for older folks, they've got their medical card there,
yeah,
and, that's exactly what it once you said that, I was really bothered, actually, for, like, the rest of the night. My mind was churning again. It's like
yeah,
once you kind of have a chance to download things mentally, sometimes after these live streams, I got to thinking, and I was like, and then I watched actually the video that you'd made after that stream, and it really bothered me because I got to thinking how they could take advantage of some of these people by really manipulating them or setting them up. It's
yeah.
bothersome if that's
And
what
I'll take
happened.
it. I'll take it home here. You also have him wandering up to the edge of the water, and it looks like he doesn't he's confused. He doesn't know if he's supposed to step down into the water. Is it the floor? Is it something else? He's confused. He has the medical card. He's wandering around aimlessly, and his pants fall down. He seems like he has dementia. And what I would say is is him raising his hand saying, it was me, shoot me, is that just another symptom? There is an extremely
Mhm,
traumatic event that just happened, an incredibly strong stressor that can cause someone with mental health issues, maybe not dementia, maybe something else, and that can
mhm.
stress them and cause more symptoms like this bizarre claim. And I think that could be a symptom itself of the dementia, making that bizarre claim. I don't necessarily think that he was manipulated or paid by anyone. I think it could just be another symptom because when I look at him wandering around aimlessly, almost stumbling into the pool of water, maybe he did stumble into it. I don't know. It cuts off. And having the medical card around his neck and his pants falling down for no reason. My grandfather just passed away due to dementia. He wasn't there. He acted like that. He wasn't allowed to go out in spaces like that. He was a little bit less functioning in his later years, but he would have acted the same way. And could I see him raising his hand saying it was me, and being confused and doing that because they're trying to
Mhm,
fill in a memory that's missing with a self-important reconstruction? That's what the mind does in dementia. You have missing time due to some kind of a stressor, and your brain just automatically fills it in with some kind of self-centered uh, false memory. So I went to a completely random church with him once that he had never been to, that none of us had ever been to. And as soon as we get there, he said, "Oh, I helped build this church when I was 20." A very self-centered false memory that the brain just fills in because so much is missing in the head. So I
mhm.
wonder, is that just a symptom instead of being some kind of patsy plot. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely think that could be a possibility there. What I would love more than anything would be to be able to speak with them myself. I sure wish that we could have at least heard and seen, like via stream, his final plea when he entered his guilty plea, to get maybe a better assessment of where his mind is at now,
Yeah.
because that might help us to make an assessment on if he seems with it or not, because I
I
know that
do
he
think
was
you would
not
need to do.
able to finish, and even then, from what I understand, and you would know better than I, given that you had a relative, who suffered from dementia, but just I think sometimes it can come and go with the
Mhm,
severity
exactly.
in stressor events. I mean, being in court certainly would be a stressor event, but potentially, so
Um,
it's
you
worth
do
thinking
have
about.
a phone call. I think when he was in jail, he talked to I think it was Diligent, Denizen, I think it is. I think, but there's a recorded phone call with him, and he sounds alert. He sounds relatively normal. He doesn't sound like a dementia patient in that. He doesn't seem nearly as confused. So it could just be something that comes and goes, especially with stressors. Or, I mean, dementia patients don't always sound like dementia patients. There's no real common thing that you sound like if you have dementia. So there is a little bit of counter evidence there. And I would say that when you see his pants falling down, when you see the medical card around in the plastic bag, when you see him wandering around aimlessly, when you see him up against that fountain, confused about, am I supposed to go in or am I not? That should cause you to stop and go back and throw away the assumption that he was paid to raise his hand and reconsider. I'm not saying that he was a dementia patient, that's why he did it, but I'm saying we should reconsider and say, within the context of some kind of mental health disorder, is Patsy plot really the strongest explanation for his behavior? That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. This is another interesting. I think Blake just did another um, super chat. Thank you for that, sir. Let me click that. He says likes people's mug shots. We're not going to go into that right now because that's off topic. How many does George Zen have? I think he has a couple. I don't know about mug shots. I'll probably look it up. But I know that he had the bomb threat. And I think there was some sort of disorderly conduct, something that happened in addition to that. So I think he had maybe 2 cases. I don't know. I don't know the full context of the bomb threat. I looked up an article on it. It did seem like he was in general a troublemaker of sorts. So does that mean that he was involved in a patsy plot? No, not necessarily. But it's not as simple as it could be for sure. But once I see those indicators, those psychological indicators, I think we should take a step back. Okay, moving on to the next point, the new investigation work I have. When you tried, this is about Charlie Kirk's sweatpants. He was wearing sweatpants when he showed up to UVU that day. No one's really talked about that. I find it odd, but I never really thought about it much because, like, okay, he's wearing sweatpants. What does it actually mean? It doesn't mean anyone's guilty of anything. When I tried to, I can't talk about this right now, but when I tried to do a demonstration for someone where I had the CO2 pendant gun working and I was able to activate the CO2 pendant gun with my foot when I was sitting down with having both my hands free, so that I would just press on it with my toe or something and it would activate. What I found was that when I used the heat shrink tubing that's really thin and pliable and able to be hidden under the clothing, what I found was when I put that under, so what happened first, let me go back. I went to Walmart to buy the sweatpants, specifically to buy the sweatpants and the white shoes that Charlie was wearing. And I thought when I was at Walmart, do I really need the sweatpants? Do I really need the shoes? I don't think I need the shoes, but do I really need the sweatpants? No, I don't need the sweatpants. That's not important. That doesn't have anything to do with the operation. It would just be silly if I were to wear sweatpants like I was cosplaying a assassination victim. That's inappropriate. So I didn't buy the sweatpants. And then I went back to my hotel room and I went to go put together the whole thing where I can activate it with my foot and it works properly. And I test fired it. And what I found was it bursts at the belt because it kinks at the belt. The belt pushes on it and it pinches it and it bursts right at the belt. This material right here. And so I was like, oh, maybe that's why he had sweatpants on. Maybe I actually do need the sweatpants. If I had been wearing sweatpants, that would have worked because the sweatpants have a much more elastic band that would not have caused the kink. So, okay, maybe that's why he was wearing sweatpants. What do you think?
Yeah, that's plausible. And I was also, yeah, I think that could definitely be the case. I hadn't really considered that before, but you have done a great job in really thinking about the entire outfit as a whole.
Yeah, and it's not like evidence, it's not capital E evidence that for sure says that's definitely why. It was definitely fake death. It's just another little indicator that seems odd and doesn't really have an explanation outside the fake death theory. But once you actually try to reproduce everything, you start finding problems. And then you realize that these little anomalies here and there are solutions to those problems that you discover while demonstrating it. So a lot of this case, in my opinion, is we're looking at these anomalies and they are solutions. We just don't know what the problem was yet. And demonstrating it, building these things out, testing them in real world helps us discover those problems, reverse engineer it, and figure out which anomalies were solutions.
A true investigation, a true experimentation.
Okay. So this is another thing from Allgeist. I'm actually going to queue up this video real fast. Okay. We're at 1 hour, 40 minutes. Let me know if you need to hop off, but I'm going to queue up this video real fast. I should have queued this up in advance, but this is a video that I did for Allgeist that's unlisted. No one's seen this. It is a test, a demonstration that I did for one of the theories Allgeist had. A problem that I had with my experimentation the entire time has been I've never been able to figure out how to get the necklace to come up out of the shirt and fly back like that ever. I've never been able to get that to work.
Mm-hmm.
Now we had initially the problem was I couldn't get it to break. And then you gave me the idea, Kelly, of using a magnetic clasp. I initially didn't understand why anyone would have a magnetic clasp, but apparently that is a thing. And so I tried it with the magnetic clasp, but that definitely allowed it to break, but it still didn't fly up. So it's like, okay, I need to get this thing to fly up because when you look at the Charlie Kirk videos, this thing comes up out of his necklace and it flies. I don't think you can actually see. Let me make myself big here. Maybe you can actually see it now, but this thing flies up out of the shirt and around the neck and ends up about right there on Charlie Kirk. And I've never been able to demonstrate anything terribly close to that. I've been able to get it to come out and sort of make a bullwhip shape by my ear right here. Kind of hard to demonstrate here. I have a photo of it that I can share later, but I've been able to get close, but I've never been able to get it to actually do anything like that. So that was a big issue for a long time. And then Allgeist has a diagram that he worked on for a long time. And it was this theory that I'm going to demonstrate here shortly. And when I first saw it, I didn't really think it was useful. I actually kind of made fun of it a little bit. Not really, but in a nice way, I think. But I didn't try to demonstrate it for a while because I thought it was crazy. But it actually does work, and it does exactly what we need it to. I'm going to show it now. What was that?
I just said interesting. I was
Yeah.
really hoping that my magnet idea was going to be like the end all be all. So
Yeah, me too.
thank you for trying it.
Yeah. I just messed it up. Here we go. I'm going to get a Finder window in front of that. Okay. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, we're going to have the mannequin shirt is off, but it's okay. It doesn't, it's all right. I forgot to put the shirt on it, but here we go. Going to go into this screen now and this screen and go. 3, 2, 1. So this is with heat shrink tubing. I'm going to show you how I did it here in a second. You basically loop it around your neck and put a projectile at the end of it so it can blast. And there we go. And you get pretty much the exact same speed that we see on Charlie Kirk. I could never get the same speed with just the pendant gun. But this one is extremely fast, like we see on Charlie Kirk. I'll play that again. Very fast. And what that would indicate is that, let me go back to me here and switch this to there. What that would indicate is that it had something to do with not striking the prosthetic and cutting the prosthetic as I initially theorized, but removing a plug probably in the prosthetic with some kind of monofilament connected to a plug. That's always been Algeist's theory. I'm still very much attracted to the idea that there is a pendant gun firing the pendant up at here for sure, because that's what we observe. We don't observe this. We don't observe this. We don't observe this. We don't observe that. What we observe is this, and we know that the pendant is under the D for freedom, so we know that the pendant was attached to some kind of device that propelled it, or perhaps a shape charge down on the stomach, maybe, but certainly not a shape charge up here. But the D for freedom, under that, the pendant rises up. So we know about that, but that doesn't explain, at least according to my demonstrations, it doesn't explain the necklace. But if you wrap I think an IV line, so the reason I initially did not believe this theory, even take it seriously at all, is because the only tubing I have is this tubing that's even remotely the same size. And you can see it's very rigid. And like you're never going to get that much, or I think it was this way. I think it's this way. You're never going to get that much deflection out of it because it's just way too rigid. So that's why I never took the theory seriously. But then I was like, okay, fine. If you're really that invested in it, I'll try it with heat shrink tubing. That's obviously not what they used because this is flat and it has slightly different characteristics. But maybe they used heat shrink tubing. And a lot of people said that.
And it would push but that type of tubing would push the blood through?
No, I think that would be associated with removing a plug from the prosthetic.
Okay, got it.
I think. I don't have that. What I really need to do is actually take the course on how to do custom prosthetics, because that's the main part of the theory I haven't touched yet. I have no knowledge on prosthetics. I've never touched them. The most I've done is casting plastic products. So I need to learn prosthetics. I can't claim any expertise over the prosthetic or how you would do the plug or how you would remove the plug for a gunshot wound. But I think it has something to do, if I'm adopting the theory, I'm going to rent out the theory and see where it leads me. But if I rent that theory and say that this had something to do with ripping the prosthetic, removing a plug, it would be a monofilament going maybe under the prosthetic, maybe over it, maybe sort of painted over on the top of the prosthetic. And I don't know exactly the mechanism yet because I haven't done the prosthetics yet. I don't have hands-on experience. I need hands-on experience with this stuff to claim any authority over it whatsoever. If I'm just talking, if I'm just speculating, if I'm just making assertions, it's very difficult for me to sort of find what the problems were when we look at the dichotomy between problems and solutions. This is a solution. Having it whip around like that must be another solution. I just haven't found out what the problem is. And in order to find out what
Yeah.
the problem is, I need to get that hands-on experience because that's how you reverse engineer it. So I don't know the exact mechanism, but that does give me the right speed. And I think if I go to an IV line from the medical field, you'll have, I don't know where that thing went, but it won't be nearly as rigid. It'll be much more pliable, I think. Do you know of where I could get much more flexible hose that's clear?
No, but if you do like have any idea, I mean, I don't know, medical
That might be a
supply,
ChatGPT.
medical
That's probably a
supply store?
ChatGPT supply
Yeah,
store.
a medical supply store?
Yeah, probably. That's probably a
I mean,
ChatGPT question.
I'm in Houston, so I'm sure there's a gazillion medical supply stores near me. So, if there is some type that you're looking for specifically, Captain Slick 76 just said O2 tubing. Is that something that
O2
you've
tubing.
used?
Oxygen tubing, so like on an an
No.
oxygen can for elderly people. Thank you, I appreciate that. I will
Oxygen
check that out.
tubing, yeah.
Because it needs to be really flexible, like this tubing here. I don't know where I put that stuff that I just had. That's really freaking me out. But anyway, it cannot be rigid. It has to be very flexible. And you know how I don't want to pull up the video because I have a split screen right now. It's kind of complicated. But you know how that thing that flies around the back of his head is always seemed kind of suspiciously thick and suspiciously long?
Right.
And it's like, is that really the necklace though? Because it
Right.
seems kind of thick.
Well, yeah, it kind
And
of reminds me even of like, so this is for headphones that I never use. And let's see here.
I'm going to try to make you big. Camera slot. Not me. Hold on. Oh boy.
Captain Slick also said, or nebulizer tubing. Oh, Bay's in the house. Hey, Bay's.
I'm trying to add item. Why is it only adding me? Hold on.
I think if you click
There it
on top like left corner of
Oh no!
the
Come on!
it's okay.
It won't
It's okay.
let me add you on your own. Here we go. And big save, and now there you go. Now you're big.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this was just kind of like giving me, those vibes. I wish that, let's see, maybe it will, I'm like, I don't know how to make it very, for you guys to be able to see it easier. Let's see. Do I have something for contrast?
Is that ear? Oh no, those headphones.
Yeah, these are headphones, but it just kind of made me think like, it's very, very flexible. It's pretty thin, right? And it kind of looks about the similar thickness to the necklace. Anyway, when you were thinking about the size of a wire or the width of a wire, tubing rather, that you were looking for, I'm like, this actually kind of fits the bill.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it is possible that is actually not the necklace and that it is actually a tubing because I'm able to reproduce it consistently. And with my investigation, with my demonstrations, I want to find solutions that demonstrate what we observe consistently, not just a one-off, not just like a 1 in a million shot that just happens to do it right, but one that consistently does exactly what we see on Charlie Kirk every time, because that's most likely to actually be what happened on the day. Okay. And I've done that version of the test fire like 5 times now with Algeist's theory, and it works every single time without fail. So I'm very attracted to it. And what I told Algeist was, when he was just asserting this is what it was my theory, it was my diagram, I was telling him, I find this issue with it, I find that issue with it, I don't believe you, I think it's dumb for this reason, that reason, whatever. I was wrong. But when you make assertions, people don't have to believe you until you demonstrate them to be capable of reproducing the observables. And even when you do demonstrate that your assertion can reproduce the observables, that doesn't prove it to bless you. That doesn't prove it to be correct. That just shows that it is a candidate explanation. That means that it is capable of reproducing what you say it can. That doesn't mean it's the correct one. And you also look at the whole fake death theory. If I can demonstrate, if I can reproduce the entire UVU event and everything looks perfect, does that mean that the death was actually fake? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that it is a very strong candidate explanation that actually can explain what happened. And if no one else can come up with a demonstration that's remotely close to those observables, then it becomes the best hypothesis that we have. And then it starts becoming less of a lowercase theory and more of an uppercase theory, like with the theory of evolution. It's never a fact in science. It's always the best theory, the best hypothesis that we have. And that's where we're trying to get to. Okay. Now I want to go over.
How do you, sorry, Jordan, if I could ask you one more question though, too, because you were kind of mentioning this a moment ago, in regards to the shirt and that very odd, I mean, gosh, it's almost like the size of this remote for my light here, but you know, with the white shirt and that just very straight up and down, you know, motion of the shirt. How do you rectify that?
The straight up and down motion of the shirt.
Yeah, you know, at the collar where, you know, yep, that.
How do I rectify that?
And like, what do you think it was? Is that the overpressure? That's the overpressure. But I mean, why did it go just directly up like that? Was it always supposed to go directly up like that? Should it have been more natural?
I think it did exactly what it was supposed to. And initially I thought its purpose was to cut the prosthetic, but as I do more tests, I realized that it's kind of difficult to aim it precisely. And, you know, I always knew that, but I was always looking for a better explanation of what its purpose was. But what I know for sure is that we have an event that starts the movement under the shirt, starts under the D for freedom. And I've done this test almost 1,000 times now. I should really keep count. It's almost 1,000 now, I'm sure. But something causes the pendant, because we know the pendant is directly under the D for freedom. This text is a little bit smaller than his, but it's close enough. But it starts under the D for freedom, and it causes an arc of the freedom, sort of like that. We see in one of the frames. I should really pull it up here, but
why don't you pull just yourself up so that way people can see it really clear?
Yeah, here we go. Thank you for the suggestion. It sort of arcs the D for freedom, which indicates that the origin of the event is under the D for freedom. It's not over here, because that would cause it to do that. It's under here, is it what we observe is this. All right. So now we're going to do the overpressure event. And it's probably not going to be perfect because this is just a completely random device, a completely random nail that I just threw under there just for shits and giggles right now. But here we go. So we're launching something, and that was a very heavy one, that way too heavy, so it didn't really quite work right. But as you saw, it goes up and it goes down, up, down, up, down. And I think that was either to cut the prosthetic, which was my initial theory, but I'm now starting to think, because you can't get the aim very precise, it was maybe just to disguise something happening under the prosthetic, possibly a plug falling out or being ripped out by the all-joists thing, or maybe an explosive that is happening underneath there. But what we know for sure when we look at the video is that take your fingers, it works best if you're a male, but take your fingers, pinch that part of your shirt, lift it up like that to your ear. That's what happened to Charlie Kirk's shirt. That's what happened. That cannot originate over here. Like, there's no opportunity for that to cause that shirt deformation. It is physically impossible. I think John Bray says that somehow the charge pushes the necklace down and then I guess it springs up. But these necklaces don't have elasticity and it happens way too fast anyways. And we need, I don't know. But nothing originating over here is going to cause this to go up and down, up, down. I'm not sure exactly what your question was. Does that address it?
That was wonderful. Yeah, I think so.
And I think I missed this super chat here. Thank you, Blessed Karma. It says, my two favorite genuine people covering this topic right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think we had
Hey,
another
Trigger
one.
Smart. Trigger Smart just arrived. He said Jordan is cooking.
We had another one from Blake. Thank you, Blake. I don't think Algeist is a spy. I don't know what that word is either, so I'm going to hide that because I have no idea what that means. But thank you, Blake. And we have Trigger Smart, I guess, in the chat. I'm going to scroll down here. Yeah. All right. We're going to go to the next point. Did you have anything, Kelly, right now?
Nope. You're rolling right along.
Okay. So I want to go to another motive because I know that a lot of people sort of get stuck on the motive of why would Charlie Kirk fake his death? Why would, if this is true and Charlie Kirk is sitting on an island somewhere, why is he letting his wife run away with his favorite car with the keys and basically wreck it into the side of a mountain? Why is he letting all these things happen in his name without speaking a word up about it? I've listed off a lot of different theories, a lot of different possible reasons why he would fake his death. None of them seem like incredibly compelling. I think the Middle Eastern country one is probably the strongest when we look at the psychological motivation, because when you think about someone faking their death, that is an extremely dramatic, irreversible decision, which is going to basically end your life as you know it. You need to have an extremely compelling psychological factor that is stressing you to the point where you're going to actually do that. It's not just having a bad day. It's not one email. It's not one text message, usually. It's not one death threat, usually. It's going to have to be a lot of stuff going on that's really stressing you out for a long period of time and is putting you into a mental space where you might actually fake your death. And we have a plethora of things that might have been going on in Charlie's life that would have maybe driven him to the point where he would be more likely to do so. We have a lot of information on Erica Kirk now due to her own decisions that seem to indicate that she is highly inauthentic, and maybe their marriage was inauthentic as well. And perhaps Charlie Kirk was sort of alerting to that. So maybe that was a stressor. We also have the Jewish donors. We have him talking about that, saying that they're really, really stressing him out with all of their demands and with taking the donations away because he doesn't want to. We also have some other things going on. I have the list somewhere. I can post it later. But there's, I think, 5 different completely separate categories of things going on in Charlie Kirk's life that we know about that would have been stressors. And I think the Israel line is probably the strongest. It's most compelling for him to fake his death. We also have the political angle where the current administration would maybe be motivated to participate in this for political reasons as a sort of false flag. So that's another thing that's going on that would motivate the government to participate in this at the highest level. But what I want to know is, if I'm Charlie Kirk, if I'm recreating his psyche in a sense, why would I do this and not say anything? Especially we're 6 months out of the event, and I think a lot of things are happening in his name against his will, what would be his will. So you need to have a good understanding of why would he do this. And I'm going to give it another shot. I have a new psychological profile that I think might match. I told you, I mentioned this to you a little while ago, Kelly. Ashton Whitty. She was a woman my age who was a YouTuber who got up to almost, I think, 200,000 subscribers on YouTube in a very short period of time. She was a conservative influencer of sorts, and she was very political. She grew up in California at UC Berkeley, and she did a lot of street interviews talking to people. and had a lot of interactions with Antifa, very opinionated, very conservative values. And she did a lot of videos with very emotional pleas as to that conservative orientation. Come to find out, not too long ago at all, it was all fake. She had a handler, she had a manager, she had people telling her what she could say about herself, what she could not say about herself. It wasn't all fake, but the vast majority of it was fake. She, in fact, was not conservative at all. She was actually liberal. She had some leanings this way and that, but she was actually liberal for the most part. A lot of it was a lie. A lot of it was gross exaggeration. And it was mostly fake. And it really damaged her to have this false internet persona. And what I draw from that is, in that space, in the political space, especially on the conservative side, I'm sure it happens on the other side as well, you have handlers, you have these manufactured personalities that serve an agenda of other people, and they have a lot to do with who you are as a person, with your identity. And if you're not psychologically healthy, if your mental health is not in order, as hers was not, it can really do a lot of damage to you. You lose your sense of identity, you lose your real purpose in life, and everything about you that other people know is fake, and it's not healthy, it's not good. And the way I bring this into the Charlie Kirk case is, I don't think he was at that level, meaning I don't think he was quite as fake as she was, but I certainly think it's highly probable, or I'll say possible, as a candidate, that a lot of his platform was fake, a lot of it was manufactured, a lot of it was only done to serve donor interests. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion at all. So what percentage of his online character would have been manufactured by donors? I don't know that number, and I suspect that it might have been higher than we might think. So in that context, does it become more likely or less likely that he might actually not care as much about TPUSA as we would think? Maybe he doesn't care about the political leanings that he endorsed as Charlie Kirk as much as we would think. Ashton Whitty wouldn't have, because she was a different person outside of her public persona. Her real values were not the donors' values. Maybe in some areas they were, but generally speaking, it is an actor underneath Ashton Whitty. It is an actor underneath Charlie Kirk. It is employment. He is an employee of the donors, of the people who manufacture TPUSA. So when we talk about Charlie Kirk, we talk about him in the sense of the character Charlie Kirk. Why would the character Charlie Kirk fake his death? But what we need to ask is, why would the actor Charlie Kirk fake his death? And I think that gives you a lot of context, and maybe helps you reinterpret some of the other stressors, like the Israel connection, like Erica Kirk maybe not being authentic, like some of the political factors, as to why he would fake his death as the actor, not as the character.
I think you are onto something there. When a lot of times I start my streams or I'm speaking in my spaces on X, I ask everybody at the beginning or even a few times during the stream, everybody take a big deep breath, breathe out, and okay, we are going to need to leave all of our preconceived notions and ideas about Charlie, about Erica, about TPUSA, sometimes about, the party as a whole, whatever. Set those aside for this period of time while we talk, okay? Because I think a lot of times people get hung up on the idea of Charlie Kirk that they think they knew, but I didn't know him personally, but I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of people who are in the chat or who will see this didn't know him either. Oh, hold on. Let's read Trigger Smart's comment here.
Is
Go
he,
for
who
it.
is Danielson? That's one of the
Uh,
other chatters?
I,
Danielson.
I,
I don't know what that's referring to. I don't know who he's talking about. Probably another chatter. Sorry, go ahead.
So let's see here. Oh, I need an ASMR channel for meditation. Yeah, maybe that'll be my next adventure. Oh, Trigger Smart said Mr. Miyagi. I had a feeling that was a movie reference. I don't know why. I just tell it sounded like a line from a movie.
Him announcing they might kill him was likely part of the setup. If he truly thought he was going to die, he wouldn't have shown up there. Yeah, I've kind of struggled with that a little bit. What do you think, Kelly?
Yes, I think that. I think announcing the Doge effort, okay, was also part of the setup. No one who is doing a real, authentic, massive audit, okay, audit,
know.
whatever. Especially when you, well, I know I put audit in the air quotes, but effort, whatever you want to call it, okay. You know, to the
We
tune
are
of
not making everything is allegedly. I don't want to get sued.
you didn't say it. You didn't say it. I did. I'm anyone who is potentially concerned about from $10 missing to $10 million potentially missing, okay, is not going to announce it to their entire staff. What, so they can go like shred all of their documents and go, you know, erase their computers overnight? Like, that just doesn't even make sense. So nobody does that. You know,
Well,
no
I mean,
boss.
okay. To be fair, though, what in what context is this? It's a Doge effort. Was Doge announced before it happened? Yeah, before it was ever real. So in the context of Doge, you actually do have precedent, so that could maybe take it
I
back.
don't know that Doge, that they had not already started Doge, the auditing process. You know, it was just that it was announced. There are all, you know, you should know that like things all the time in the government are already happening before they are officially announced, you know. They're already,
Okay, I have.
those wheels have already, you know, are all the train has already left the station before they're officially announced publicly.
We have to figure out what this German word is. There's a lot of stuff here. I have this super chat here. If I can get this thing to show, I'll do this one real fast. Thank you, Blake. Where do I think Charlie Kirk is tonight? I have no idea. One of the leading speculations is Valhalla, which is apparently an island in New Zealand, but I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that it was witness protection. I don't have a clear mechanism for that, so I do not know. I think I missed one from Truth Evades, or maybe that's at the bottom. Maybe I didn't miss it at all. I didn't miss it at all. There it is. We need to figure out what that word is. I'm putting it into Google Translate right now. I hope if it's a cuss word, it's probably not that bad. Do you know what that is, Kelly?
I have no clue.
Okay.
I do think that though that it was sent, or let's see, I think it was a reference to some movie though.
Egg rash health.
What?
Egg rash, I guess. Wait a second. That's not what's in the chat. How do I?
Blake says it's a safe word.
I don't know what it is. I'll have to probably figure it out later.
Flying genie? I don't know.
I know what Gesundheit means. It's health or bless you. I know that one. Flying genie? I don't know. Okay, let's move on from that. I think I got all the super chats. Thank you, everyone. Okay. I think I got to the end of the list that I wanted to talk about. We're at about 2 hours, 15 minutes now. And I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Moving forward this week, especially once I get let me put this back into the other. Once I get this gear, my new goal is to demonstrate the backpack and be able to go mobile. And I'm also working on some other cool stuff behind the scenes for maybe a full-blown reconstruction, but I can't really talk about that yet because it's maybe not. Have no idea if it'll happen or not. But my goal, either way, whichever way, is to do a full-blown reconstruction, and that's going to be really cool. Maybe a lot of people can come check it out. Don't know what the format is going to be, but I think the best option is to have it open to the public in some way, shape, or form.
Jordan, what would you say is the best way? Oh, okay. We've got Shan NYC 5813 says they'll give you $100 super chat to get me out of here. Maybe you should take them up on their offer while they're while they're at it. I was about to ask, how can people help you? But apparently somebody
I
wants
do
to
not.
throw you $100.
I do not appreciate people saying bad things about my guests. I do not appreciate that. We do not platform that here. Yeah. So
what is the best way that, that folks can help you?
I'm probably going to set up a GoFundMe. I've needed to do it for a while because there's quite a bit of stuff that I need to purchase, and arguably the biggest limiting factor for progress right now is funding. It's not a lot of funding that I need at all to make some significant progress here. So I probably will be doing a GoFundMe. It's just a matter of me actually going and doing it. I probably have to set up a bunch of stuff for that to work, but that is another thing that I need to work on so that I can sort of go faster, because that is definitely a larger setback. So yeah, I'm focusing on the backpack this week though, and demonstrating that, because I know that ecological, I forget the rest, criminal report something. He's very interested in that. I think the best way to really show people how it works is to demonstrate it. So did you have anything else to say, Kelly?
No, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and congrats on, the new developments. Just keep trucking along. I know that my boys enjoy getting to see your latest developments too. So just know you have fans in all different shapes and sizes, I guess.
And I'll say this: once I get some of this new equipment, I'll be able to go back to doing the nightly live streams where I with the mannequin, where I demonstrate. Because what I'd done for a while was I was doing it by hand. I would click this and click that at the same time, and I would do it every single night just to demonstrate that this is an extremely reliable system. Once I get the electronic control, it's a completely different ball game, and I can just set it up on the computer and it will automatically go, and I can just be sitting here and watching it on the live stream. But the purpose of that was to demonstrate the reliability of it. And once I stopped doing it because I'd already demonstrated the reliability, and it started getting really messy, and I still have stuff all over the walls that I still need to clean up. So that's why I stopped doing it, is because it was so messy, and I'd already kind of made my point. But once I get the electronic control, there will be new reason to do that again, so I can restart that for at least a little while. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for doing the super chats. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. I know I didn't read all of them, but we did the best we could. Thank you so much for coming on, Kelly. I really appreciate your time, and we're gonna have a lot more progress coming up here very soon. Have a good night, everyone.
All right.